Okay. Good afternoon, one and all. I am Soumyaranjan Ram from IETE-ISF, and I graciously welcome you all to our session on open source and its impact in the coming years. So, for today's session, we have with us a renowned personality, the real Samaritan of open source, and who believes in an open source for everyone, Mr. Eddie Jaoude. Eddie is an open source expert, a YouTuber, and a full stack developer. Having over an experience of 15 years working as a senior software engineer and senior developer advocate, Eddie has contributed to many open source projects on GitHub. If all these weren't enough, he also trended among the top 11 and top 500 open source contributors. As we progress through the session, if you have any doubts, feel free to post them in the live chat for us to take it up. With an immense pleasure, I would hand over the session to Eddie. Eddie, over to you.
Thank you so much for that amazing introduction. It's awesome to be here and awesome to geek out with you all. And just to reiterate what you said, any questions, do ask as we go along. Please put a Q in front so I don't miss it in the chat. If I do miss it, then hopefully one of the moderators will pick it up, or just copy and paste it and ask the question again. Not immediately, give me time to have a look and see it. But if after some time I don't answer it, then do copy and paste it back in again. But I'm super excited to geek out with you all today. It's going to be epic. I really encourage questions, so I'm trying to do actually quite a short talk, and then we can dig deeper into the areas that you all want to know more about. And it's great to have so many familiar faces or familiar names in the chat, some new ones as well. So I'm really excited to geek out with you all today. So in today's talk, we're going to cover open source, GitHub as well, and why you should care. It's important to know why. I mean, you probably hear a lot of people saying it's awesome, it's great, it's just so many benefits, but why you should care. So we are going to talk about that and how it can accelerate your career, grow your network, and build a community around you or your project as well. So there's a lot to cover. I want to do a light touch on all these areas, and then you let me know which areas you want to dig deeper into. So thank you all so much for the positive feedback in the comments. I really appreciate that. I really, really do. And I'm wearing my GitHub, over here, move it this way, GitHub t-shirt today. And if you see me looking all over the place, it's because I'm probably looking at the screen up here just to make sure that the live stream and not live stream, but my call is all going okay and it's all fine. So that's why. So I wander over there. That's the reason. So, and also I want you to stand out, right? In the dev community, it's quite busy, and with a little bit of effort, you can actually stand out. You can make your GitHub profile stand out. You can make yourself stand out. Personal branding is really important. And being in the chat here, or posting on Twitter, you are working on your personal branding, and so that is really, really important. Yeah, I'm just super excited. Love all the positive feedback in the chat. Really, really appreciate it. And if someone asks a question and you've got an opinion on the answer, do give an answer in the chat. Again, it's another way to network for people to know your experiences and your opinions and so forth. And it's great for everyone to see different perspectives. Remember, there are no stupid questions, just stupid answers from me. So you're fine. I was going to do a little quick introduction to myself, but I think I had an amazing intro already, so I won't do that. I did win GitHub Star of the Year. That's 1 out of 55 million people on GitHub, and I was super proud to win that. And I was a GitHub Star as well for all last year. So I'm really keen for all of you to potentially become GitHub Stars as well. And all you have to do is share what you learn as you go along and help people. And you got to remember, when I started in open source over 10 years ago, there was no Git, there was no GitHub, there was no pull requests. You had to register on someone's server, get SSH keys, just sign all these extra forms. Like it was really, really painful. And I've been freelancing and contracting for the same amount of time as open source, about 10, 11 years. And it's been the best decision I made to have that flexibility. And I want that all for you to have that choice, or to have jobs come to you as well. And this is why you got to stand out from the crowd. So do share as you go along. One thing you can actually do today as well is to grow your network is to get in front of my network and to get in front of other people's network in the community. And the way you can do that is you could take a screenshot of this live stream. You could tag the Access Denied, our awesome hosts, and you could tag me, and you'll probably get a like. But if you want to get a share and you want to get a shout out, then add value to that post. When you take a screenshot of this and share it on socials and tag us, share 1 or 2 or 3 things that you learned from today's live stream. And then that helps people who aren't here. So it's always about adding value. And as the people you tag see that you've added value, then they're going to reshare it. And then you get in front of all their network. And that's how you can grow your network and stand out. So yes. Okay, what else do we want to cover? So my goal is to get all of you into open source. So write in the chat if you contribute to open source at the moment. Just write open source in the chat. And if you don't contribute to open source, hopefully by the end of this stream, you will be encouraged to. It's the weekend, so lots of time to contribute to open source this weekend. And the benefits of open source, well, you might be thinking, well, why would you want to contribute to open source? Well, one is you will accelerate your skills. You will learn so much faster. If you got a personal trainer and went to the gym and just watched them train, you might learn and pick up things. It's like watching videos on YouTube, doing tutorials. You've heard of tutorial hell. But by you actually doing something, be it on open source or in the gym doing the exercise, you're going to learn so much more. And so it's important to get on. And remember, with open source on GitHub, you can't make any mistakes. The worst thing that will happen is you make a comment, raise an issue, raise a pull request, and we'll explain what those are in a second. But they get closed. They say, no, thank you, and get closed. You still get the green square for that day, and no one's going to lose any sleep of it. No cats were harmed in the raising of that pull request or issue. So do just try, and you will learn from it. And we're going to show you how to find good projects to contribute to as well. But you will accelerate your skills. You will learn so much. You will learn technical skills, but you will also learn how to communicate. And that's even more important than the technical skills. Because if you can communicate, you can then learn the technical skills. But if you can't communicate well, then how are you going to learn the technical skills if you can't communicate with other people? So it's really important. One of the tests I give when I interview people for my clients is we talk about a project and I ask them to raise an issue. And it's really interesting to see how people raise issues. And you can tell the people who contribute to open source, their issues are so much better than someone who doesn't, because they give it more context. So whenever you write an issue, a comment, or a pull request, just remember to give context. Remember that if you weren't there, if someone came and looked at what you've just created or raised, and they weren't involved in the discussion, does it make sense? So give context. Don't say, following our discussion, I'll do A. It's like, but what discussion? Maybe the person wasn't there. Maybe the person's forgotten. So always give context, and that's really important. That's how you can stand out in open source, on GitHub, and in your job as well. I do see in so many projects, open source and not open source, that certain pull requests get merged sooner. And certain issues get kind of more comments and more engagement for the rest of the team or the wider team. And the reason is it was written better, or the pull request is smaller. And that's really important. Remember, your issue or your pull request has to add value. It doesn't have to be big. It has to add value. Sometimes it's bigger, sometimes it's smaller. And that's really, really important. I see some people saying tried in Hacktoberfest. Awesome. Shreyan, I can't pronounce your name, I'm really sorry. But Hacktoberfest is a really good time to get involved. But it's quite sad how many people get involved in Hacktoberfest in October and they don't continue. You got to remember, it's like brushing your teeth, little and often. If you do 1,000 commits or 1,000 pull requests in October and nothing the rest of the year, it's not going to help someone's skills. It's not going to help their career. It's not going to help their profile. So you've got to think of it like brushing your teeth, little and often. Every couple of days, or every couple of days, you can add some value to open source. Remember, it's not just about code or commits. Review someone else's pull request, leave a comment on someone's issue, whatever it is. It's about adding that value, and that's how you can build your profile. That's how you can stand out. When I get offers from Google, from GitHub, from Facebook, these are companies I haven't applied to, but they've offered me because of my open source projects and open source contributions. I really want the same for you. So hopefully that kind of sticks in your mind and gives you the encouragement, because all of you, I say you, I mean all of you, the encouragement to do a little and often. Like I said, like brushing your teeth. If you fall asleep in front of the TV and you forget to brush your teeth that evening, you're not going to wake up with your teeth yellow or they're going to fall out, anything like that. Same with open source. If you miss a day, miss 2 days, miss a week, not the end of the world, but overall, over the year, if it can be little and often and regular, that's really, really important. Because it will really help you get the clients and job and money that you deserve. My biggest regret, to show you how important it is, my biggest regret, I have two big regrets. One is not starting to get involved in open source sooner. But like I said, back then it was a bit difficult. It was very complicated. But also, I wish I started sharing my learnings on my YouTube channel a lot sooner. I started about 3 years ago. I wish I started sooner. And again, sharing content on Twitter or on blog posts, on YouTube, whatever it is for you, do share as you learn things. But you will learn how to share things better as time goes on. So it just takes practice. I think I'm over 300 videos on YouTube and I don't know how many live streams and all the rest, but I'm still making improvements. And same with your technical skills on open source or your coding projects and on your communication as well. Some of the challenges with there are challenges being in tech, and it's probably part of the fun. Things are always changing. Things are really, really always changing. And that's part of the fun, but that makes it hard. And you cannot learn everything. And if you do, you will burn out. Definitely don't burn out. Make sure you have a good work-life balance. There will be times when you work harder and there will be times when you relax a little bit more. But you've got to find that balance overall, over that month, over that year. And this is where the community comes in. So I do want to give a shout out to the awesome open source tech community. And of course, our community, Eddie Hub, and your community here as well. That I find that people, if you're having like a low day or a low week and you're not feeling very motivated, I find the community encourages us to do more. And I love that. But also on the flip side, if you're on Discord all the time or on live streams all the time or whatever it is, I sometimes find the community says, hey, Eddie, maybe you want to take it down a bit. You might burn out. You sound exhausted. You're mumbling, which is all the time anyway. But hopefully this makes sense today. I love that the community notices that, you've been working really hard. You've got too many green squares. They're saying, take a chill, maybe take a day off, half a day off. And I love that. So it's really important to get involved in the community for so many reasons. Like I said, communication improvements, technical improvements, and also support on those high and low days is really, really important. And if you add value to the community, sometimes it's just listening to people when they're stuck. When you get stuck, when you need help, they will help you. People sometimes ask, why does no one help me when I ask? So, well, you only come and chat to the community when you want help. You're never there when someone else wants help. And other people, when they ask for help, because they've always helped other people, they have 10 people, no matter what time of the day or night it is, waiting to help and support them. So it is important to have that two-way street. I'm mumbling. Awesome. I'm inspiration. Thank you all so much for the support in the chat. It is 6:30 in the morning here in the UK. So it's a little bit early in the morning. I have my coffee. So hopefully that will keep me going. I'm super excited to be here with you all. And remember, not all contributions have to be code. I want to repeat that multiple times through the talk. Reviewing someone's pull request, even if you're not a maintainer on the project, review someone's pull request. And I know what you're thinking. You're going to say, Eddie, I don't really know much about this project. I don't know much about this technology. I'm new to tech, etc. But you can add so much value by being new to a project or new to tech. You really, really can. Because I see so many like documentation, for example, they say step 1, do this, step 2, do this, and step 3, do this. And someone who's familiar with Node or Python or whatever the technology is being used, they follow steps 1, 2, and 3 and it works. But someone who's new to that technology might follow step 1, it works, step 2, it works, step 3 doesn't. And in the documentation, they might have missed kind of 2B. So step 2 needed to be step 2A and 2B. The reason for that is you might have to CD into a directory. For example, I see so many documentations that say clone a repository, then run npm install. But actually between those two steps, you need to CD into the repository, into the folder you just cloned. And for most people who are in the technology, in that space, that makes sense to them. They know that, they do that automatically. But people who are new to tech don't know that. So if you're new to tech or new to a technology, by going through the documentation, you can add value by saying, actually, there's a missing step. You need to do this. And then that helps the people coming after you. That's why I love it when we get new people contributing to our projects. And I always say to them, have a look at the project. Let us know if the project makes sense. Do you know what the project's about? If they say, well, you got to tell me what the project's about. I say, well, no. If the repo, the README and docs, whatever it is, don't make sense or don't tell you what the project's about, then there's something wrong with the project, not you. And we need to improve it, and we can improve it for the next person. So yeah, your point of view really adds value. And so if you're not a project maintainer on a project, review a pull request and ask questions. Okay, so we have some questions here. Remember to prepend your questions with a Q, capital Q, so I don't miss it. But it's not too busy in the chat at the moment, so I spotted it. How to understand a large code base of a project quickly before starting to contribute. I think it's not possible. And I say that seriously, because if you try to understand an entire code base, it's going to take a lot of time. And you don't need to understand the whole code base because it should be broken down into modules or into sections or components. And it's going to be moving forward all the time, especially the bigger the project, the faster it moves forward. So I recommend not starting to contribute to big projects because they're going to move so fast. And you don't want to get disheartened by raising an issue, starting the conversation. So open source is more about collaboration first, code second. And the reason for that is you raise an issue, you start the conversation. Should I make this change? What do you think of this new idea? I found a bug. Should we fix it? Etc. And then you make a change and you raise a pull request, which is like an issue, but it's got code attached to it. And what you're doing on the pull request is you're starting the conversation from your changes. So the issue is to start the conversation. And the pull request is to start the conversation from the changes that you have made from implementation. And if you're on a big project, say React, for example, everyone wants to contribute to React. Woo, woo, React. I think I've got sound effects. Let's have a look. Let's see. React, level up. Actually, you might not have heard that. A second. Let me click on this button here. See, with all my gear, I have no idea. So hopefully now you can hear that sound effect. Let me know in the chat if you did. But with a big project like React or anything else like that, if you raise an issue and you raise a pull request, or if you find an issue you want to contribute to and you raise a pull request, someone else might have raised the pull request before you. And even if they haven't and you've made your changes, by the time it gets reviewed 24 hours, 48 hours later, your changes might be out of date, might have conflicts, and you kind of get into this conflict hell where 24 hours, 48 hours later, after you've seen the comments on your pull request, you then fix the conflicts, but by the time you fixed it and it gets reviewed again, you've got more conflicts. Like, it's really disheartening. And so the idea is start off with projects in your community, in your network, with your friends. And as you get faster and used to contributing and used to the workflow, because it's important that you fork the project, but it's important that you work in a branch and that you keep the default branch in line with the upstream, so the original repository. And things like that are easy once you know how, but it's not easy until you've done it quite a few times. I mean, it took me weeks, if not months, to understand that workflow. And between you and me, let me tell you a bit of a secret. So between you and me, my first contribution, and I was going to say pull request because back in the day there was no pull request, no GitHub. I'm old. My first contribution was fixing a typo. And all my friends and all my colleagues thought I was really stupid to go through all that effort of getting SSH keys, all the rest, just to fix a typo. And funny enough, the project maintainers were really happy because they said, although I know it's a typo, that other people whose English isn't their first language might not know what this word means because they don't understand it's a typo. And that gave me positive feedback to do more. So then I just started going around fixing typos. So to be honest, my second, third, maybe my 10th pull request was fixing typos. I got used to the workflow, understood how it worked, and then I started improving code coverage, improving documentation, and then adding features and so on to projects. So do make it easier for yourself. You're not going to go to the gym and go and try and bench press like 200 kilos. You're going to do 10 kilos and you're going to work up to it until you build up your strength and your confidence and your form and so on. So remember, start off small. So I hope that helps. Another question with a Q in front. Yes. What would you suggest to be a good first step? Good first step would be, there's a few good first steps. So it depends on where people are. If you've never contributed to open source before, you need to find an inclusive project. And by inclusive, I mean a project that wants contributions. And what you can do is you can check the closed pull requests and check that the closed ones, the ones that haven't been merged, have been closed in a nice way. Has the project maintainer said, look, I'm really sorry. Thank you very much for your changes, but these changes don't fit in with our project at the moment. But look at issues 1 and issues 2 and issues 3. They might be more suitable pull requests to make. And that shows it's an inclusive project. It wants people to contribute. Whereas if it's just been closed without any comment, that's quite disheartening. You don't want to do that. You can look for good first issue, usually issues with good first issues. Should I share my screen and quickly show you? Let's have a look. So bear with me 1 second and I will share my screen. Okay. Here we go. So click my fingers, 1, 2, 3. Let's see if you can see my screen. Okay, so this is my GitHub repo. This is not GitHub repo, this is my GitHub profile. Do customize your GitHub profile. It's really, really important because you'll stand out again. Really important. Follow people on GitHub. And then you want kind of, I'm not massively green, but it's got, overall over the year, it's quite fairly green. So what I wanted to say was, if you go to the top, right at the top, issues at the top, this will be issues for the whole of GitHub. Initially, it shows what I've created. But if you remove the search box and you say, for example, like label, you can then say label good first issue, and then you can choose a language if you want as well. And when you press enter and search, it's actually going to search the whole of GitHub. Look at all these issues open and closed. So that's how you can find like a good first issue with the language or technology that you want. And then go through and have a look at these repos and see, like this isn't the very last active update 2 hours ago. Have a look for that. Not many stars and forks. So maybe they're not wanting contributors, but it's been active quite recently. There's no pull requests on this, so you can't look how inclusive the project is, but pick another one. So let's pick another project. This again hasn't got many stars, but there are issues, which is really important. Are there any there are closed pull requests, so you can see these have been merged. You can see if it's inclusive, and that's how you can really check and how you can get involved in open source. Hopefully that that helps a little bit as well. If that's not massively green, I don't know what is. There are people with more green than me, but yeah, I do so many other things than just, I give away a lot of green squares. And what I mean by that is on my live streams, I really encourage people to raise green squares raise issues and pull requests and for them to get into it. And then I things I could do quite quickly, but I want other people to do it. I get so much joy in other people getting green squares. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question about first steps, but just get involved in the conversation. Really just get involved. Join a Discord, chat to people. You'll discover other projects. We have our GitHub organization that you can join, and we have projects from documentation projects to practice repos to Discord bots written in TypeScript. So we have a whole raft of things. But by getting involved in the conversation, by looking at issues, giving feedback and ideas, then as you add value, other people in the community will help you with the technical side if that's the help that you need. So definitely get involved in the discussion. Love the positive feedback. Thank you all so much. I think we'll have that as a victory sound for these awesome comments. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate it. I think it means so much to me to get these positive feedback. So I really appreciate it. Thank you. And I've mentioned this before, that it's not just about code. You improve documentation, improve tests, and all the rest, and everything else in between. Any improvements you can see. So have a look at our organization repos, the Eddie Hub organization. Have a look at my repos. Any suggestions, even on my customized GitHub profile. Any suggestions, any ideas, just raise an issue. You'll get a green square and we can start the conversation from there. And please do customize your own repo. And don't think, oh, I've got to make it perfect. It's going to take me a couple of months. Add value straight away. Just create a repo, the same name as your username. And that's it. Now you've got a customized repo because there'll be a template there that GitHub puts for you. And once it's there, other people can start raising issues on that repo. They can start making improvements for you. And then you become a project maintainer and you learn so much more by being a project maintainer because you get to see the flip side. If you're always the one raising the issues and raising pull requests, you're kind of doing the kind of like, I don't know, push side, which is great. But when you're receiving stuff, receiving pull requests, but receiving issues, you'll think, oh, why didn't they explain that a bit more? Why didn't they put a screenshot? It would have made more sense. It would have helped me understand what's going on. And by being on the flip side, you're going to make your issues and your pull requests even better. So definitely do that. You're all effectively project maintainers as soon as you create a open source repo on GitHub. So it's really, really important. Okay, hopefully I haven't missed any questions. Yes, you heard it. Brilliant. You heard a sound effect. Okay, got a few more sound effects. So yeah, this is all part of the fun. And this is what energizes and motivates me to keep going. Your awesome comments in the chat, your awesome questions, awesome feedback, and people raising issues and pull requests. I do have a confession to make though. And this is like a failure sound for me. If you're a project maintainer, which a lot of you will be just by, like I said, customizing your own GitHub profile, try and reply to issues and pull requests within 24 hours. And if your reply is, look, I'm away this week, I'm away from my computer, I'm only going to reply for another week, that's fine. But you give people an idea that it hasn't gone missed and you haven't forgotten about it. But I have a confession to make. I am about 10 days behind in my GitHub notifications because I've got about 1,200 GitHub notifications to go through. So I have got to try and improve that and keep on top of that. So apologies for anyone who has contributed to one of our projects. But the great thing is about the awesome community is, if not most of them, if not all of them, all of those issues and pull requests have already had lots of comments, lots of reviews from the community. So by me being late to the party, hopefully it hasn't upset anyone because there's been lots of conversation and chatter going on. Okay, let's have a look. What else have we got? Looking through my notes. Keep questions coming in the chat. Remember, put a Q in front of it so I see it. And so, at the end of the day, you're going to be looking for an internship, you're going to be job hunting, so many things, but it is really, really painful. And it takes time and energy. So that's why by getting involved in open source, you can maybe miss the queue, as in it might have like 3-stage interview, miss it. If you do enough and put yourself out there in the community, you can, maybe people can come to you, and not maybe, they will. So it's important to build up your personal brand on social media, on GitHub. GitHub is a social platform. I mean, what does GitHub mean to you? Write in the chat and let me know what does GitHub mean to you? For me, GitHub is like Instagram for developers, because on Instagram you can post a picture, you can like someone else's photo, you can leave a comment. Well, on GitHub you can do the same thing. You can post your code, you can like someone's project, as in with a star. You can leave a comment, but you can take it even further. You can fork it and make contributions and improve it. So it's like so much better. It's like Instagram on steroids. So make your life easier. By doing little and often, it makes your life easier because companies will come to you and you'll get the jobs without it being painful. Why make it painful? Make your life easier. The amount of, even going back quite a few years, the amount of jobs I would get would be ones coming to me, or even if I applied to one, they'd look at my GitHub profile and rather than even just having an interview, they'd say, well, when can you start? I'm like, but what about the interview? It's like, well, we've seen how you collaborate with people on GitHub, so we know how you are, and we've seen your code. And remember, your code doesn't have to be the best code on GitHub. And it probably won't be if you're always learning. The important thing is to share your learnings as you go along, because when I interview people, I look at their GitHub, no question about it. You're not surprised, I know. But I look at their code today, sure, but I don't look how good it is. That isn't one of my criterias. One of my criteria is their code today better than it was 1 month ago? That's my criteria, because it shows me that they're still learning. That's the important part to me, that they're still learning. And also more important than that is the collaboration. How do they write issues? How do they give feedback to people? So it's really important. You have to learn how to give feedback to people, how to take feedback, and so on. Saloni, thank you so much for that. You're so cool. Totally in awe. Thank you very much. I really, really appreciate that. Really, really appreciate it. We've got one. GitHub equals Google Drive with chatting functions and source of project ideas. Nice. Kind of like Google Drive on steroids. We'll say that. Okay, so we've talked a bit about what is open source. It's social platform, and it's like Instagram on steroids or Google Drive on steroids. But don't worry too much about the vanity metrics. I think a lot of people share their open source repos on socials, which is fine, where they say, hey, start my project. And that's just the vanity metric side. Really, you want to get feedback on your project to make it better, and then the stars will come later. Like, don't worry about those. Get feedback on your project, improve it, get the contributions, get the engagement, and then GitHub will promote it. GitHub doesn't really promote projects that get stars. They promote projects that are adding value. So you want those contributions, you want those pull requests, those issues. That's what will make your project trend. Then you'll get more stars. Oh, excuse me. Let me have a drink and I'll let you write some questions in the chat. So if you haven't noticed yet, I believe open source is for everyone because it's not about code. As I said, it's about collaboration first, code second. And I gave an example of get involved in the conversation. And you can also contribute to the libraries and projects and frameworks that you use already. Like if you're using, I don't know, take an NPM, for example, and you're bringing in dependencies, be it React, be it smaller ones like, I don't know, Moment.js, or I can't think of any others. But you could contribute to those projects. Do you find something's missing in those documentations? Do you find that there could be some new features, or if you found a bug, log the bug? That's a contribution. That's adding value to the project. Anymore? Nothing in the chat. Okay, I keep looking down just to check on the chat. You all still awake? Hopefully you are. And by doing this, doing all these awesome things, they're fun, you'll learn lots, but you'll grow your network. And you'll have the problem that I have, which is I get too many GitHub notifications. But that's a good problem to have, so I'm not complaining. I'm really excited about it. Okay, so you want to put your GitHub link on your CV, but on your resume, but you want it to add value to it. So the amount of CVs, sorry, I say CVs as resumes, I guess it's British and American terms maybe. But when I look at people's resumes and they've got a GitHub link at the top, I'm really excited. But then I look at their GitHub and it's just dead. And I think, what's the point of putting that on there if it's not adding value? So make sure it adds value and strengthens your position. And GitHub is becoming more and more like your CV. Like I said, it's the communication, the technical side, so much. And you can't really lie on it. On LinkedIn, you can lie and say, you invented Facebook. But on GitHub, you really can't do that because it shows everything that we need to know. So you can kind of skip, you can reduce the kind of the interview process, which I think is really, really useful. Okay. Still no questions in the chat. Have you all fallen asleep? Got some questions in the chat. You must have some questions. You don't want to hear me talk all the time. And remember, share your journey. Every time you learn something, share it on GitHub, share it on social, improve your personal branding. And that will help you grow your community around you. You can get known for being an expert in a particular area as well. So it's important, share code snippets on socials. And even if you learned something, you think, oh, that was simple, but you've just learned it, share it. That's what I do. My YouTube videos aren't about me creating content. It's actually me about documenting things that I've learned recently. And it makes it easier for me because I don't have to think of new ideas. I've learned this today, or tomorrow I'll create a video on it. I'll share it on socials and I'll share it on GitHub. It's probably already shared on GitHub because everything I do is open source anyway. But yeah, it's important to be transparent. It will only help and strengthen your situation. You'll get feedback from people. If you're following a tutorial, for example, and you're learning, I don't know, a project, like how to build an API. If you make that open source on GitHub, then you can get feedback from people. And if you need help, you can share a link to it. And it makes it easier for people to help you. And a better way to learn actually is don't follow the tutorial exactly. So if they're creating a blog post, maybe you create a job post in your API or whatever you're creating, because it will make you think about it more. Use different fields. So if they're using a blog post title, you're going to use job title and job description, and you'll just think of it slightly differently, and that's really, really important. And you'll get feedback from people. And if you haven't directly copied a tutorial, you can use it as part of your portfolio. So another great question here. The first contribution was fixing a typo. What were the other kind of first issues you fixed? What kind of minor bugs? Things like documentation bugs, there are always loads, but also maybe I'm trying to think back in the day when I first started contributing, I was contributing to PHP and Java. So it was more things like the class or the functional library didn't have the feature I needed, for example, or needed to do something. I had 90% of it, but needed that little bit more, or there was a bug fix, whereas in certain conditions it wouldn't work. And a lot of the times my friends actually found the bugs, but they didn't want to contribute back. So they found the bugs and they'd help me come up with a fix, and I would kind of commit it. Well, I say commit it. It wasn't a commit back then. It was like, it wasn't Git. So it was like SVN or CVS. But yeah, so in terms of Git terminology, I would commit it and push it up and give the contribution. So it was really good because people wanted to collaborate, but they didn't want to put themselves out there if they got maybe bad feedback, a bit nervous. So you can pair on things. On Git commits now, you can add 2 authors. You can put a pull request in draft mode. So you can then say to your friend, look, I've started this pull request. Here are my changes. What do you think? And therefore the maintainers know not to review it yet because it's not finished. There are so many things you can do. And the more you put it out there, the more feedback you'll get from people and the better you'll get. So hopefully that answers your question. Just anything that adds value, definitely do that. What is SVN or CVS? I won't tell you because it will give you nightmares. It's like a really old and outdated version of Git. I haven't used it in like 6 or 8 years, and I don't miss them. Git is a lot better. Yeah, don't worry about those old stuff. How are we doing on time? Okay, we've got time left. I think we're okay. Because so many things I want to show you and share with you, and so definitely let me know where you want me to kind of focus and go do a deeper dive. So let me know. And I'm going to say it again, get involved in the conversation, review people's pull requests. Even if you're not the maintainer on the project, you can still approve a pull request. I love it that on our community projects, when I eventually get round, 7-10 days, a bit behind, get round to getting the notifications, that pull requests have had feedback from people. They've been improved. They've even been approved by the community. And so usually I can just look at it and hit merge if I'm the only maintainer on that project. But on most of our community projects, we've got maintainers now. So usually it's merged in and it's just taken care of and done. And that's just awesome. And you can just do so many things like that to improve your skills. Oh, lots of questions coming in. Love this. Where do I start after creating a Git profile? By Git profile, I'm guessing you mean a GitHub profile. So when you've created a GitHub profile, you can, as I showed before, you can search for issues with good first issue and with a language if you want, even with multiple languages, and you can just filter down your results. But I would recommend looking at your friends, your network, your community projects and seeing how to get involved in those, because those projects are probably more welcoming, aren't moving too fast. So you're just going at a good pace. And if you see an issue you like, you can say, hey, can I have this issue? Can I work on this issue? And people can assign it to you, or in the comment, they can say, yeah, this is yours, go ahead. But don't sandbag issues. And what I mean by that is, don't say, oh, you found like 5 good issues. Like by good, I mean easy issues. Right, I want this one, I want this one, I want this, and do nothing for a month because you got busy, because that gives you a bad reputation in the community. What you want to do is only have one issue at a time, focus on getting that issue done, and then once you've done it, move on to the next one. Or once it's in review, you might start moving on to the next one, depending on your time. But don't sandbag issues, because if you hold on to loads of issues and you block other people, you get a bad reputation for not being a team player. And remember, it is about community and collaboration. So hopefully that helps. Do get started. Just get started. You can't do anything wrong. We have, I think I mentioned before, we have a channel in our Discord where we put good first issues for people to get started, and people who want to help people to get started as well. So that makes it a lot easier. Can you show us your project you're working on now, and one you particularly like? Oh, I love that question. We need a sound effect for that. Let's do, we collected a power up, and let's do a drum roll. I love that. Yes. Okay. Awesome. Let me share my screen. And there's a reason why I love that question, and I want to explain why. The reason why I love that question is because I do have a client, a real open source client project. It's not a fake project, a real project started a couple of weeks ago, and I'm starting it with best practices first. So I'd love to take you through it, and you'll see how you can add value to other projects by doing stuff like this. And what I mean is by automating things. And GitHub Actions might be quite new to you, but at the end of the day, most of the time, GitHub Actions is just some YAML config, and I'll show you. So this project is called Stargate. It's with my client DataStax. And The project is a Discord bot to connect to their Stargate serverless platform, which is basically a hosted database for free. And underneath it's Cassandra, but you can connect to it via their Stargate interface, which is a RESTful API, or you can use GraphQL, or you can use native Cassandra. So it's really flexible. But I've created this Discord bot to connect to that as a demo project, but we've been doing it with best practices from the beginning. And this is kind of a good way to, good way for you to see kind of your way around GitHub. So let me show it. And one thing you need to learn for open source and GitHub is Markdown. So let me know, write Markdown in the chat if you know what Markdown is, and write, I don't know in the chat if you don't know what it is and you don't know how to use it. There are only a few things you need to learn, but it is really, really helpful. Let me look over here on the chat and make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, awesome. So this is the project, and I'll just walk you through it, GitHub. I don't want to assume that you know too much, but you probably know more than I'm making out. But just to kind of cover everyone, these are the stars that I mentioned. The forks is if you want to take a copy of the project into your own account. It doesn't stay up to date. You have to manually update it, or you can get a GitHub action to update it. I see some yeses in the chat. Okay, people know what Markdown is, but if you want a demo of Markdown, I can show you. I can't remember what yes or no were in the chat. Yes, if you know Markdown. No, if you don't know Markdown, I can show you. Okay, so this is the project. So these are branches. So what a branch is, it's kind of like a fork, but you're keeping it within the same repo, the same account. And it's a copy of the project at that moment in time. And so you can then make changes that later on you can have a pull request to bring it back in, or you can leave it just on a branch for it to kind of just be as I don't know, we call it a spike, as in you might try something, but leave it there just for information. But if you want to raise a pull request, it needs to go via a branch or via a fork. And the great thing about pull requests is not only do you get your work reviewed by a colleague, a friend, a community member, but also it's great for knowledge transfer. It's really, really important. Okay, got some no's in the chat as well as some yeses. So I will show some Markdown in a second. So Markdown is everywhere, in issues, in pull requests, and documentation. This README is in Markdown. Okay, this table might be in HTML, but most of it is in Markdown. I think that's it. Okay, so let's quickly walk through this. How am I doing on time? I think I got like 15 or so minutes left. So let me quickly run through some of the things. So branches we mentioned, these are the branches. You don't want lots of branches. You want a few branches maybe at most, and that's it. Tags are like releases, and they're a save point that can never change. And it's you're happy with that project, it can be deployed. So it's kind of like, version, in this case, 0.5.3. That's the release, and we can make more features after that, but that version will never change, and I'll explain that more in a second. So what a commit is a save point. So in any branch you can make a commit, and a commit is you've made kind of a save point, and then you can look, this hash on the right hand side is a unique key. This is a short version of the hash, and it shows you what's been changed. So in this case, in that commit, in that save point, I removed these two lines because on the left is what it was, on the right is what it is. And you can change the way you view this, usually unified or split. I prefer split. Unified is in one line, and the reds and greens are on top of each other, and split is left and right. And you can see it even shows you which characters had changed. To the darker green, you can see is what I've added. And you can also do the great thing, you can do inline comments, and you can chat about the code with your team, your community, and so on. Again, it's about collaboration. So commit is a save point. A branch is like a copy of the project, and a fork is a copy of the project in a different account. Hopefully that makes sense to you. Release is a collection of commits. I'm going to skip packages, skip environment. And what else have we got? On your projects, if you're a maintainer, make sure you add a description. See if you can add a link to the project. Make sure you've got a README and you've got a license. And the way you can check that is if you can go to Insights and go to the Community tab, and you can see the ticks and the bits that are missing. So we haven't got a contributing file. We've got a pull request with this open, but the pull request is so big, it's taking us lots of time to review it. So that's why I keep pull requests small and add value. Let me give you a concrete example on this. In the past, quite recently actually, someone said, Eddie, I want to make a contributing file for you. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be the best contributing file ever. I'm going to write like 1 or 2 pages. I'll get back to you in 2-3 months. It's going to be epic. When open source world, 2 or 3 months kind of means 3 to 6 months. But also 2 pages, like nobody wants to review that. And if it takes, even if they do it in a month, that's a whole month where the project and the community hasn't had value. So I said to them, why don't you just create the file, the contributing.md file, doesn't exist yet, and put 1 line, just 1 line, even if the 1 line says, any questions, raise an issue, or any questions, come and chat to in Discord, whatever it is, that is going to add value to the community and to the project immediately. We can get that merged in. And once the file already exists with 1 line, other people can start contributing to it. So definitely keep things small. And that's why that pull request is still open, because it's got loads of comments and we're still discussing it. Okay, so we've got lots of issues. You can see that we've got labels against these issues, and we actually run labels in automatically via GitHub Action. If we get time, I'll go into that. Let's have a look at what do you call it? Report a bug. What Markdown looks like, just for the people, and in the chat, people who know what Markdown is, let me know what Markdown parts we should show. So in some places on GitHub, you've got these helpers on the top, but just so you know what they are, it's pretty easy. This will be a heading 1. Heading, can't write. I definitely can't write. Keyboard's over this way. Heading 1. And then if you want a heading 2, it is going to be 2 hashes and so on. So you kind of, get the idea. You can go up to 6. This is normal text, and you can do things like a list. So you got item 1, item 2. Let's review it. And then you can also do numbered. So you can actually go kind of 1, 2, 3, but you can also go 1, 1, 1. And you're going to think, Eddie, why are you going to go 1, 1, 1? Well, because if you move things around later on, you have to update all the numbers. Whereas if you do 1, 1, 1, GitHub figures it out and increments it for you already. So I could then copy and paste this one, for example, up top. I don't have to renumber them because the 1, 2, as you can see, is still in the correct order. Other things you can do, so MD files are Markdown files, and if you do a readme.md, when you first come to the project, it appears below. And in any folder, if you do a readme.md, it appears like that, which is awesome. So was that behind my head when I was showing people? I wasn't sure. Sorry if it was behind my head. My big head, move out of the way. So that's what it looks like. Just to show you again if it was behind my head, and that's what it looks like rendered. You can do tables. Other thing that's really useful for issues and pull requests. This is like, again, how to stand out. If you're going to do certain tasks, so in this issue or pull request, whatever it is, PR for short, do this. Look, task 1, task 2, task 3. But if you want to make it stand out, do stuff like this, a checklist. So it's open square bracket, space, close square bracket. And you might think, well, okay, Eddie, what's so great about that? Well, if I put an X in one, it shows it as done, like this, okay? But the benefit, what makes it stand out, is not just on this page, but I don't know if I've got an example to show you. Let me see. If I go back to the issue list, I don't know if I've got an example in this. I haven't. But it shows a progress bar on the issue to say how much of the issue is done or how much of the pull request is done. If there's a pull request, let me see if we've got one on a pull request. We haven't either. My point is, from a glance, you can straight away see what the progress of that issue or that pull request. It will stand out so much further than people want to go investigate. Also use the project boards to manage your work. It's really, really helpful to do to-dos, the Kanban kind of style. Question, yes, question. On it, let's have a look. Is it better to contribute to one particular project for a significant time, make more value adding requests with time, or solve issues raised in multiple projects? Another amazing question. Wow, these questions are awesome. That's a really great question. And I think if you can have a balance and do both, the reason for that is contributing to different projects, you're going to learn different skills. But if you just dip your toe in loads of projects, and we call it the seagull approach, where you kind of just swoop in, fly in, do something quick and then fly off, the community for that project, the maintainer is not going to want to give you time to help you on the harder topics so you can learn. So by getting involved and adding value to a project consistently, like 1 or 2 projects consistently, when you say, look, I've added all these easy value points. I say easy, they might not be easy, but easier value points. When you say, look, I want to do this one, but it's a bit out of my reach, I'm not sure how to do it. Can someone pair with me? Can someone help me? If you've added value to that project for often and helped a lot of people and reviewed PRs and so forth, then the maintainers and other people in the community are going to say, yes, we'll help you upskill. So you're going to learn so much faster. So I would try and stick around a project for a decent amount of time. And then once you kind of outgrow that project, or you find another project that's more suited to maybe your technical skills or the speed that you want to work toward, be it faster or slower, etc., then you might change. But yes, that's a really amazing question. I love it. Really, really love it. That's a great, great question. Hopefully that answers it. If it doesn't, let's dig deeper into it. And thank you so much for the awesome feedback, people. That's great. Okay, so yeah, use the project board. And if you're just, I don't know, planning your project or planning what you're doing, use your project board. I use the project boards for my videos and my social media stuff. It's all public. So my video editor, so if I go to projects, I have my socials. So I talk about blog posts that I need to write and other things, and I move this along if the video is in editing and all the rest. So just use it because it's helping your GitHub profile get more activity. It's helping you trend more. It's just helping so many things. So it's really important just to have that activity on your profile. Okay, what else? What else can I show you? You've got discussions. Let me just quickly show you a better discussions, because this project I'm really proud of, and I want to show you a couple of other things actually on it. Automate everything. So GitHub Actions is like an automation. It's a trigger. So when something happens, so for example, we have import labels action. And what happens is when, so if I go to issues actually and show you my labels, we've got lots of labels. And I don't want every project keep adding these. And if someone wants to make a change to it, me as the admin on the project, I'm the only person who can make changes to it. So what I thought, let's automate this for this client project. I thought, okay, so what we did, I've created a docs folder and I put some docs in there, and we'll come back to this in a second and show you how important docs is and how you could automate this as well. Treat docs like code. But in here, I've got a JSON file. We should probably move this to a data folder later. That could be an issue that you could raise on the repo, get a green square for today. But if you notice, each JSON item is an issue. So what you'll see is all of these, you'll recognize, if I scroll to the bottom, you'll see the points 1 and points 2 are the labels that I added recently. And what the GitHub action does, and you can see the GitHub actions by going to the .github folder, and then the workflows, and then you've got I'm gonna move out the way, and you've got these different things. So this is the labels one, and this is the GitHub action. Oh, in the way again, aren't I, Eddie? You're your big head. But what it is anything changes on docs label.json, then it will trigger the action. And effectively, all the action does is just import with 1 or 2 lines, but it's behind my head, is import the labels. So therefore, the labels, the project management is all handled via pull requests and via community contributions, which is, again, everything should be handled via the community, via, I say the source code, but it's not just code, and by automation. So another thing we do, when a pull request gets merged, you're going to love this part. When a pull request gets merged, we like the pull request to have documentation as well as changes to the source code, as well as having docs. I've got .adoc files here, which are very similar to Markdown files. If I give an example, again, it renders, looks very similar, but you can do a lot more with it than Markdown. So that's why I use it. And it gets deployed out to a website on a GitHub action as well, using a tool. But that's not the super exciting thing. The super exciting thing is when a pull request gets merged into the main default branch, a release is created. So you can see you've got 053, and these are automatically generated. And so if I go to the release list, you'll see that 053, and it's just got bug fixes. So it bumped the last digit, the build digit. Before that, 52 bumped the build digit, and so on. But if you look at this one, this has got bug fixes. So 0.5.0 is bug fixes as well as features. And so the one before that, you can see, because it's got features, it's automatically getting bumped. Because it's major, minor, build. So the minor gets bumped automatically if there's features. And so you can do that via your commit messages. So make sure you make your commit messages useful. You can put fix in front of it. You can put chore. You can put feat, F-E-A-T, short for feature. Let me try and find one. There we go. There you go. Feat. And then include the issue number as well, because it all ties together about what's going on. And then you do that automation. It's just a GitHub action, which I'll show you in a second. It's really simple. Even better than that, it then gets deployed out, and that version will match it as well. So hopefully I'm okay on time. But if I bring Discord over here, I'll make it bigger. If I bring this over here, you're going to love this. So not only will it create bot chat, here we go. Not only will it create a release, it also creates a Docker container and also deploys it. So on the command line on Discord bots, this is what I did yesterday, as you can see, yesterday at 6 o'clock. I said exclamation mark Stargate version. That's all the bot does at the moment. It's really simple. I'm setting up the foundations for the project in place. And the bot returns with, you guessed it, v0.53, which matches our version in the release. So someone wants to run it locally, they can run the version they want. And it all syncs together, same with the documentation. I'm sure there's still improvements we can make, and I'm always open to seeing improvements. Right, other question. As a beginner, can I contribute to Stargate? Maybe just minor code fixes at first. You can contribute so much. Remember, it's about adding value. I'm sure if you go to this repo, this is how you can add value today. Get your green square today on Saturday. Go to this repo, and if something doesn't make sense, raise an issue and say, Eddie, this doesn't make sense. What does it mean? Like, go to the README. Is the project clear of what it's trying to achieve? If it's not, ask the question. Let's make it clear. And then in the issue, when we say, if you say, oh, Eddie, I think the project's about this. Does that make sense? And I might write, no, actually, the project's about this. And then from that, you can update the README. You can update the docs. You can, if you want to add a Discord command to the bot, is it clear how? We have a docs folder, and we have creating a command. Does that make sense? Don't make any assumptions. Go through it. If something's not easy and doesn't make sense, let's improve it. Let's make it better for the next person. So at the same time, you can improve the documentation. You can learn how to make a command, and you can add a command as well. You might have an idea for a command. You say, hey, it'd be really great to have a time zone converter command. Then you can add that command. So it goes from getting involved in the conversation, to asking questions, to improving documentation, to adding features. And from that, you can add more and more and more. So definitely get involved. So yes, the answer to your question is yes, you can get involved. Yes, you can add value. And yes, you can make minor and major improvements and changes. Definitely. Absolutely. Not related to open source directly, but as a full stack developer, how do you keep yourself updated with all up and coming technology and trends? Another great question. That's really, really hard to do. So years and years ago, I used to try and keep up with everything, keep up with what version numbers are coming out, what features are coming out, and it's just too hard. So I think the advice I give as of today, and things are always changing, I'm always learning too. Remember, you're all my mentors as well. I'm learning from all of you as well as I'm sharing my knowledge. So everyone's always learning from each other. That's why it's really important not to have a single mentor, to make everyone your mentor, so you can learn from different people, and then you can pick out the parts that you want. So I think going T-shape, and what I mean by T-shape is go wide on everything and deep on one or two things. So be aware of everything that's going on, but you don't have to know it. Like one of my interview questions is design patterns, and that's architectural design patterns, not like the adapter pattern, MVC, MVVM, factory, and all those sorts of things. And you can't know all of them. I mean, over the years, I've tried to learn more and more of them, but you still can't know all of them. But what I like to know is if people understand what they are, do they know one or two of them? And I always ask a really obscure one that I know they won't know, and I want to see what their response is. Do they try and make up some rubbish response? Well, that's not really beneficial, because it's just wasting time. And if we're working on something and you said you're going to do something, but you've kind of made it up and you don't know what you're doing, and a day later you said, actually, I didn't know what I was doing, I made it up. It doesn't help. Whereas if someone said, I don't know what it means, then that's really good. But even better, the answer that is the answer I'm really looking for is, I don't know that one, but I would know where to look. And that's why I say go wide. Be aware of where to look for things. And that's helped me many times in the past as well, where design patterns went through a craze years ago where everyone was testing everyone on design patterns. And I remember saying, I don't remember that one. I remember it's something to do like with this, but this is the documentation I would look at to figure it out. So I knew what to Google, I knew what to look for, I knew where to look for it. And I think that's the important side, rather than just kind of Googling what is a design pattern or whatever it is, right? Keep it open. So if you can feedback that you know where you would look and what you'd search for, that's really valuable. So go wide on that. And then for one or two technologies, then go deep. That's why it's like a T-shape. So do go deep on maybe one thing to begin with, and later on it might become a second. The first thing's always the hardest. The second becomes easier, and the third becomes easier as well. So to definitely do that. Yeah, well said. Yeah, be a jack of all trades and a master of a few. Yes, you want the best of both worlds. You really, really do. Yeah, absolutely. One thing I was going to show was, the progress, I think, on the issues. Or was it on the pull request? Can't remember. But get involved in discussions, right? GitHub now has this tab called discussions. Get involved in discussions. I don't know if Siddharth is in the chat, but Siddharth does this awesome thing where he goes to a virtual event and he creates a discussion documenting it. And people have really noticed that. So that's ideas, that's community core ideas. Where is it? There was one recently. Let's have a look. That's a community call. That's not the one. I can't remember. But it's really important to add value to the community in any shape or form that you can. I can't find it, but it's there somewhere. Yeah, cool. Thanks for all the input sessions. Super informative. Thank you all so much. I think I'm out of time. How are we doing on time?
Okay. It was a great session, Eddie. And
thank you. I had so much fun.
Yeah, I express my sincere thanks to Eddie for taking out his precious time to enlighten us and clear all our doubts. Thank you, Eddie. Also, for all our audience, there are exciting cash prizes awaiting for you in AccessDenied'21. The winner gets 20,000 INR, the runner-up gets 15,000 INR, and the second runner-up gets 10,000 INR. There are also specific track prizes and other special mention prizes along with it. I once again thank Eddie for enlightening us on this topic. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. See you soon in the next session.